So I challenge you to make these 2 hours today extremely rare and special. And to do that, you need to invoke in yourself the capacity that you are able to be free from suffering. And for some reason in the West we think that we're not allowed to be happy, and Buddhists, Western Buddhists love being depressed. And it's easy, it's easy to be depressed because the first step of Buddhist understanding of reality is that things suck. That's just the fuel to get you out of sucking. Yeah. So I challenge you for the next however many weeks you're going to be listening to these ideas, internalizing them, touch them with that part of you that has the potential to be magnificently free from all suffering. It's possible. And I wish it for you. I wish it for you, and I wish it for you to get it, and I wish it for you to get it and pass it on to other people as a reality, not just an idea. And to do that, we invoke that potentiality in us. We do this thing called the mandala offering. There's all these lines of blah blah, and it's not the blah blah, it's the intentions that are in our minds as we think about what we're about to do in this precious 2 hours out of a crazy 24. And so we imagine a perfect universe. We offer that perfect universe to whatever it is that enables us to learn, to get wisdom. And so, most humble attempts, we create the most perfect creation we can imagine, stemming from the front of us, and offering it to that thing that turns in us from ignorance to wisdom, and ask for teachings if you don't know. So let's start with the mandala offering. If you don't know how to do the whole blah blah thing, you don't matter. I will teach you this, but this is a traditional Tibetan. So this is the first course that it needs to be extremely special to enter in and disciple.
Sashi Puki Jishnim Etotram Vira Lingshi Nimde Yampadi Sange Shindu Mite Uwadi Drokun Nanda Shinla Juparsho Idam Guru Ratnamanda Vakam Niryatayami Sange Churam Soki Choknam La Jangshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinye Gipe Sononki Jola Panchir Sange Druparsho Sange Churam Soki Choknam La Jangshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinye Gipe Sonanki Jola Panchir Sange Druparsho Sange Churam Soki Choknam La Jangshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinye Gipe Sonanki Jola Panchir Sange Druparsho.
So let's take a quick meditation so we can turn the way we're thinking outside this room into the way we should be thinking inside this room. So take a comfortable seated position. If you've never meditated before, pretend that you know what you're doing. Nobody knows. Like I'm doing right now. Comfortable seated position, beautifully straight back, not leaning forward or backwards. Your vertebrae in your back are stacked one on top of the other like golden coins, and there's like a string pulling you up from the tip of your head, from the crown of your head, onto the, pulling you up. Suspended you are. And make a commitment not to move or fidget or struggle. Once you set your body, quick scan the base of your body, your torso, your shoulders. Relax any tension, especially around your face. It's okay to do a slight smile. It's actually better for the meditation. And remove that from. And how about you just breathe? It's okay just to breathe the next few minutes. Focus on the sensation of the air entering and exiting your nostril. And just observe. The senses will be calling for attention, just like the choppy sea. But below the surface of that sea, waters get more and more calm. With each breath, you go deeper and deeper, and stillness comes over you. Thoughts can come and go, sounds can come and go, sensations can come and go, just observe them. If you have a teacher, invite them to please come. And they sit in front of you in meditation, posture facing you, it's just you and them. Watch as your breaths synchronize, your chest's rising at the same time, breath exiting at the same time. There's a smile on their face for being next to you. Make them a beautiful offering for having come. Think of their highest quality. And to clear your mind of any distractions, just think back at the most obvious thing that you did today that caused some negativity in your world or in another's world. The purpose of this life is to get happy. Think of anything you did today that was counter that purpose. Did you create some suffering? Not to feel terrible about it, but just to recognize that it wasn't what you really wanted out of life. So see if you can generate some sense of regret and some active regret that says, I'll try not to do that in the future. And with that, you can be free of that. You're full. Acknowledge it. And you're full. Next, think of the most wonderful thing you did today. Where did you bring some happiness to yourself or others? Even if it's just the joy of making a person smile. And just feel good about having done a good thing. Feel good about bringing about happiness. Everybody wants joy in their lives. Now look at your teacher again and ask them please to teach you at every turn, regardless of what happens in your life over the next week or so. May every opportunity be some kind of insightful lesson, something that shifts the way you experience life and turns it ever and ever into wisdom. show you those things. And ask them please to always stay close until you reach whatever ultimate goal you're seeking. And now begin to see them rise up and turn facing the same direction you are and getting smaller and smaller until they rest just above the crown of your head, just before touching. You can feel their presence there, radiant with wisdom, the source of all your knowledge and all your insights, however you visualize them. Keep them safe on the crown of your head. And now bring your attention to that person that is perceiving the things you have just finished imagining. The thing that hears the voice I'm speaking. Where is that and who is that? Who are you? How do you identify you? How solid are you? Which version of you are you focused on? And now bring your awareness to your heart, around the center of your chest. Concentrate your energy there, and when you're ready you can open your eyes. Hi. Well, welcome, thanks so much for coming. If you haven't done a meditation like that, it's okay. If you have, good. The first question I want to ask you is why you're here. Like, why the hell are you here and not outside? There's a whole bunch of people lining up at the new museum. They're seeing some, a big signature. Do you know what's showing there? It's this massive signature on a glass wall. Almost half a block long. It's really interesting. Okay. It's just a signature.
Let's go. Let's get out of here.
The way here, this is a course on karma. And for those of you who haven't been here before, this is course 5 of 18 courses that are taught at a Tibetan monastery over some 20 years. What's called a Geshe degree, or a doctorate of philosophy, of theology. And not even every Tibetan gets to have this kind of information, so it's extremely rare. It was first taught in the 90s and put together by a very special creature called Geshe Marcel, who was one of the first people to get these ideas in Western terms. He wasn't a Tibetan trying to put it into English terms. Grew up into a Western life and got these ideas from an Eastern teacher, holy Ken Rinpoche, who was one of the first people to come to the East Coast after Tibet was taken over by China and they went over to India. His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His Holiness the Dalai Lama sent Ken Rinpoche to the East Coast and another Rinpoche to the West Coast. And that's the beginning of Eastern Buddhist Tibetan philosophy in America. And somehow we tapped and got the privilege. I had the privilege to touch that in the 90s, as these words for the very first time were being produced in the West, and then these ideas sink in. But I want to highlight that these ideas, as magnificent as they are, unless you're paying attention, unless you're making them active inside of you, could just be more garbled. And that depends on you. I'm going to share with you some magnificent ideas. And they weren't Geshe Michaels, they weren't Ken Rinpoches, they weren't his teachers, Ken Rinpoches, they weren't his teachers, they weren't all the way back to Buddha. And like Newton, who sat there, is it Newton who got hit with the apple? Huh? No, I think Newton. Yeah, the apple.
Sir Isaac.
Yeah, Sir Isaac Newton. Yeah. Like him getting an insight about the way things function in this world. He sat there and he had a suspicion things weren't quite the same. He was thinking a lot about it and trying and practicing something. Like him, under a tree he sat and he got an insight into gravity. He didn't invent gravity, and he got an insight into gravity. It's not like he said, I've got this great idea, I'm going to call it gravity, you must believe it. Yeah? Like that, the Buddha had an insight under a tree after some practice and some making effort, and got an insight into a non-physical reality, into some laws. And he said, you don't have to believe me, you have to internalize them, try the theory, and see how it works. For him it works. Like for Sir Isaac Newton, gravity exists. And you can try to break gravity, but gravity is there. So, central to the tenet of the Buddhist teaching is this thing of cause and effect, karma. So I want to spend some time talking about that. But me being me, I can't go there unless I make sure everybody that's been here has either reviewed or has some basic understanding of course 1, 2, 3, and 4. So who's been to course 1 in here? Thank you. Who's been to course 2, 2, 3, and 4? Let's see how we go. Okay. For those of you who haven't, you'll get some idea of why we're talking about karma now. Karma by itself is a good topic, but there's also some prerequisites that we need to understand. So to summarize so far, we're teaching this course called the Asian Classics Institute, ACI. This is ACI 5 of 18 courses. First taught by Geshe Michael Roach in the 90s. I was privileged enough to be here for part of it live. The rest of it I got through cassette tapes, you know, remember the ones that had the red button and that's how we recorded them. Okay? And then they began spreading, and now there's these courses and books and so on available for many people, but still, compared to all the people lining up at the news, there's not that many people that get access to this information. So, ACI 1, Asian Classics Institute 1, was called
The Three Principal Paths.
No. One person. Yeah, it teaches a book by
Jade Kappa. It's called The Three Principal Paths.
Called The Three Principal Paths.
You're right, it is called.
Yeah. What is it? Good.
That's the flyer.
So try and get the sequence of events that leads us to learning karma. Okay. So the very beginning of these Asian Classics Institute courses teach this idea called the Three Principal Paths, or the Nam Sum. Yeah, Three Principal Paths by Jade Kappa, who was a master in the year 1357 to
1419.
14 something, right? Something like that. He wrote his book called the Lamrim Chemo, and then he wrote the Namsum, and this encapsulates the entire canon of Buddhist teachings into these 100,000 pages, 10,000 pages. He wrote many of these things called the Lamrim, the entire steps, and the shortest one is this Namsum, 14 verses from beginning to end teach you the entire path from being a schmuck to becoming a Buddha. Yeah? And all the things that need to happen. So he called these things the three principal paths because you need three principal ideas, three principal things to turn a suffering life into a bliss. existing Buddha. And what are those three things? Three principal paths. What's the first one? Renunciation. So there's this, in the first course, you get an insight into this idea that at some point, and we're talking about this today, if you're lucky enough, you're going to have some tragedy early on in your life to realize that things don't work here. Not all the time. That there's some mistake around the way we function. And we'll talk about the insight of the Buddha around that mistake when we talk about karma. So the first one is, I'm sick and tired of things not working. There's something else. I'm hitting my head against the wall. Something's not functioning. Doing the things the way I'm used to doing, or doing the way that the way everybody else does it, leads to more suffering. At some point in your life, you will have had enough about trying to get happy, trying to get relationships, trying to get in the conventional way, and you'll be sick and tired, and you'll have this fire burning inside you going, I'm sick of it. I want out of this cycle. First of the three principal paths. Renunciation. When that becomes a driver, you seek some answers, right? You seek some wisdom. But the middle path, the second path, is called bodhicitta. Yeah? You realize you're not the only person hurting. So if you're going to figure out how to stop the hurting, if you're sick and tired for yourself, it just takes a millisecond of just turning your head and going, there's that human and that being and that being and that being and that being. They're in the same boat. They're trying relationships, they're trying a new job, they're trying a new career, they're trying a new car, a new this, a new that, and they're still not happy. Just like me. So this idea that if I can figure out for them too, for me and for them, this thing begins growing in your heart. The second of the principal paths, of the three principal paths, the second big idea that you must grow and feed is called bodhicitta. This search for enlightenment for the sake of others. And it's a most sweet and beautiful thing. And it's scary as well, because it's overwhelming. And the third of the principal paths, ladies and gentlemen, is correct view, or it's synonym for wisdom, which means what? Come on.
Ultimate reality.
Ultimate reality. If things don't work in the conventional way, there's another way things work. It's figuring out that way. What's the mistake that we're making? If you figure out the mistake, you're getting the correct answer, the correct view. Yeah? So it's understanding this idea of emptiness. So for those of you who didn't do ACI 1, there you are, that's the previous. And so understanding this idea after 12 courses at Asian Classics Institute 1, course 1, you move into ACI 2. We spend 12 weeks talking about this idea of refuge, and in particular Buddhist refuge. Because the idea of refuge is things hurt, you get some renunciation. Okay, you're getting real about life. Things aren't working too good, doesn't feel comfortable. When things don't work, when things hurt, when someone hits you, when someone chases you, when there's suffering, you go for refuge to something else. When it's a legal problem, you go to a lawyer and you hope they help you. When it's a criminal problem, you go to the police and you take refuge in, they'll help you. But all these paths, the idea of Buddhist refuge is, what's the ultimate thing you could take refuge in that will remove all suffering permanently, not part-time, not until the next suffering. So the idea of Buddhist refuge is that there are some things in these ideas taught by the Buddha. So don't get stuck on Buddhist being a thing. Yeah, it's call him some dude refuge. Yeah, but this person like Newton had an insight into a law, the way things function, ultimate reality, ultimately how do things really function. And then he spent years teaching that. into what I call the sutras. So here, the Buddha says that there are some things that you could take refuge in that will give you real refuge, real protection. Real protection from what? Suffering. Yeah. So what are the three things? The Buddha jewel,
The three jewels.
the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. And for those of you who don't know these terms, nominally they could mean the Buddha as the dude. Yeah. The Dharma is usually known as the teachings of the Buddha, the speech and the written things. And the Sangha are the community of monks and nuns that follow him. That's the nominal explanation, but they can't really help you. You know? They can't really remove your suffering. So there's something else, something deeper. And in ACI 2, when you talk about Buddhist refuge, you will understand that the Buddha jewel, so the jewel in this Buddha, to the dude who woke up, yeah, is in essence the emptiness of his mind. The fact that his mind doesn't have a nature from its own side, that it's a changing thing that can change from suffering to enlightened, that emptiness, the fact that it's blank from its own side, that upon that emptiness we see an enlightened being, and that mind is exactly the same as mine. That is the Buddha jewel, the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, the emptiness of my mind is the only thing that can free you, because if your mind is like the Buddha's mind, a changing thing that doesn't have a fixed nature, you too can be free from suffering. You too can have an insight into the ultimate nature of reality. That's real protection because it removes suffering. The Dharma jewel is what?
The teachings of the Buddha on emptiness.
The teaching of the Buddha on emptiness, yeah? Or any being which is a Buddha on emptiness. Yeah? The understanding, and this is another central tenet. There's two big ideas that the Buddha had under that tree, and he spent years sharing that in many, many forms and many, many practices and many, many schools and many, many teachings. But it comes down to two big, big ideas. Karma, which we'll talk about for the next 12 weeks, and emptiness. And understanding this idea of emptiness, it doesn't mean blank, it doesn't mean nothing exists, it doesn't mean any of those things. It means that there is no nature in objects or people or things from their own side. That you have a very specific view of what I'm saying, and that view is different, and therefore the words I'm saying don't carry the meaning inside the words. The way you're interpreting them and the way you're interpreting, and you're excited and you're bored and is in you, because these don't have that nature. Karma, emptiness. So we'll spend some time thinking about that. So the Buddha jewel is the emptiness of the Buddhist mind. The Dharma jewel is the teachings on emptiness, the fact that this understanding, how things truly are, this is central. And the Sangha jewel, which is usually the community of monks and nuns, is what? Excellent. Yeah. So those beings, just like the Buddha, who had that direct insight into emptiness, the nature of things, they can really help you, because they can teach you that. And when you understand it, how karma and emptiness work to produce a suffering or a non-suffering world, then you're free from suffering. You know how to actually stop suffering. You don't go for refuge in new jeans, new boyfriend, new things, because you know where the true source of the production of your world comes from. We'll talk about that in time. Any questions on that? Any questions at all? And please, this is an interactive class. You're welcome to ask lots of questions. I promise to do most of the talking. Okay, so we figured out ACI 1 was there's three big ideas that can remove you from suffering. Yeah? Renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. And then there's some protection in the Buddha Dharma Sangha jewel. There's some real essence of protection there to really get out of suffering. So this whole understanding of emptiness. And then we went to ACI 3, which was we learned about meditation and why meditation is important. And the only point of meditation is not because it's sexy, because it's not. Sitting down in a space by yourself, it's boring, you know? And it's not exciting, it's not calming. That's all a byproduct. The point of meditation is to get this crazy monkey inside your mind that wants to think about this, and what am I doing tomorrow, and I don't like that, and I don't like this, and what about this, and I feel bad, and I feel depressed, and I feel happy, you know, and focus it. It's a powerful thing, your mind, and it's out of control. And so is our world, because our minds are out of control. The point of meditation is to get that broad, sparkly thing called the mind and focus it into a laser sharp point. And once you begin to control the way your mind can move, we'll talk to you about how to meditate, why to meditate, objects to meditate, we talked all these things. Then you focus that laser point mind once you've got control of it, because at the moment, if you are who you seem to be, it's got control of you and me. You know, it runs amok, it creates your existence. It gets you depressed. I mean, who's been sad this week? Who's been a little bit sad this week? Any moment we felt a little sad, right? You wouldn't choose it, right? You wouldn't wake up and go, I'm going to be sad today. The fact that something else is moving your sadness. It's not you, not choosing it. Who wants to be happy? Everyone wants to be happy. So why do you have any sadness? Something else has got you. And it's your crazy mind. Meditations, the whole goal of meditation is to get that crazy moving thing, focus it onto the ultimate, highest, most precious object that can free you from suffering, emptiness. Once you build up enough intellectual understanding of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, renunciation, wisdom, etc. Once you get enough cognitive knowledge, your mind starts thinking about it. Once you build up enough momentum there, then you can focus your mind really still who you are, and then move that knowledge from the head to the heart, from a cerebral understanding of these things that we're talking about to a complete visceral understanding of an aha, I get it. That's the only point of meditation. The rest, you're wasting your time nicely. A good benefit of meditation is that while you're sitting there, you're not doing bad crap. Yeah? Which, when we talk about cause and effect, you want to avoid doing. Because most of the time, in all our crazy minds, we're creating causes for further unhappiness because we are ignorant about the way things work. Yeah? So, let's see if we can recap. So we talked about what the three principal paths were. We talked about what the real refuge is. Let's talk a little bit about meditation. What's the summary of what we learned in meditation? What are the 5 problems in meditation? You found one? I love that. So the Tibetans are so fantastic about listing, all the list of sub-lists and points and dot points. So the first problem in meditation is
I don't really feel like meditating.
I'm not feeling like meditating. That's a problem. Yeah, that's a big problem because you're not meditating. Right? So there are 4 antidotes to that problem. Do you remember the antidote?
Oh. You think about the benefits of meditation?
Excellent.
Is that the first
so
one?
You attract yourself towards meditation by thinking of the benefits. Good.
Then the second one is you want it.
You want it. You build a want for it, thirst for it. Good.
You take steps to...
Yep. You decide to actually sit down on the cushion. Yep.
And then the fourth is, do you meditate? I don't know.
You practice enough of that until it becomes comfortable. Practice ease. Good. What's the second problem with meditation? You should know this, because if you're going to try and meditate, you're going to have all these enemies, these 5 main enemies. Yeah, the first one is laziness. You're not going to get up. And a brilliant, magnificent teacher who's in retreat at the moment, he's a special teacher for me. I saw him going through some incredible transformation. He's one of the few people that I revere because I saw a shift in him for really hard times and then turn them into magnificent times. And he would say to me, Hector, whenever it gets really bad, like desperately low, crawl your ass on that cushion. Like just crawl yourself on the cushion and sit. And when I listen to his advice, which is not often, it works. So what's the Can anybody remember, that's a hint, what the second problem of meditation is?
Losing the object.
Forgetting the instruction. Yeah, losing the object.
I forgot it, but you reminder.
Good. And what would the antidote be?
Remember the object.
Remembering the object. Good, very good. Remembering the instruction. Meaning, not if you're meditating on your understanding of emptiness, or if you're meditating on death, or whatever it is you're meditating on, you start thinking of your shopping list, or you start thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow. That's what that means. You're forgetting what you're sitting there to do, which is, even if you're thinking of the loveliest thing, if you're thinking of your beautiful teacher and how lovely the teachings were and all this other stuff, it's not helping your meditation. You need to focus on your mind will play the most magnificent tricks on you to not focus. Yeah, so don't get sucked into your mind's tendency to throw in front of you all these lovely things for you to get distracted on, because that's all it wants to do. It wants to be distracted. It's a crazy monkey running around your head. So bring your mind back to the object. And then you have the third obstacle, which has two subsets.
Dullness.
Dullness and agitation. So the next obstacle is, you could just be sitting there and you've been doing it too long and you're like bored and things are fuzzy and you're sitting there and you think you're meditating and you go into some kind of zone, but it's not really sharp and aligned. Yeah? Well, the other one is that it's the other way around. You're too fidgety and I'm not very good and, there's and so you're agitated, your mind is agitated, it's fast and so on. It's somewhere in between the two. Those two are enemies. Yeah? Those two are obstacles to focusing your mind. Why the hell are we focusing the mind? To reach stillness, to get an understanding of emptiness. Why?
Stop suffering.
How does emptiness stop suffering?
Because it's the way things really work. It's an understanding of how things really work.
Okay. Any other? Good. How does it bring you to your mind?
Understanding.
So emptiness is just half of the equation, right? Emptiness, that the ultimate nature of all things is that they have no nature. That sounds weird. Right? There's another part. The other part is karma. We have to talk about karma. If you understand how karma and emptiness work, that everything has no nature, but you are experiencing things with some nature, where the hell does that nature come from? Karma. If you understand cause and effect that way, upon emptiness, one with the other, then you can, and if that's the way things really work, then you can really create happiness. You can really stop suffering. Because you're not playing in a crazy reality, you're playing in the ultimate reality. I'll give you an example when we talk about it. So, okay, the last two obstacles to meditation. Failing to take action, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you began to get equilibrium. Yeah. You got rid of dullness and got rid of agitation. One is by bringing the mind up, one is by bringing the mind down, and then you might.
Take action.
No, first you might forget to take action, right? To address dullness and agitation. So you should take action. And the last one is taking action when you're not supposed to. So you're really centered and you're really balanced and you're still taking action because you've been practicing to not get dull and not get agitated, and your mind wants to get distracted doing that rather than just center it. Yeah, that's it. That's the summary of ACI 5. And then we talked about the proof of future lives on ACI 4. For 12 weeks we talked about, this was a hard course. Yeah. We touched a little bit on karma. We had to. We touched in every course around emptiness. We had to. But see the flow of it. The three principal paths. You need these three ideas to get free from suffering, to get ultimate free from suffering. The three jewels are the only things that can protect you as you begin your path to freedom. Meditation is the only way you're going to let your mind, where all things come from, focused enough to get a visceral understanding of ultimate reality, because that's the only way you are going to personally figure out how to manipulate your reality. And then we talk about past and future lives, this idea of What happens to the mind? Where did you come from? Who are you? And this is a beautiful segue between that, past and future lives, where your mind is a continuum and it's separate from your body. It's a beautiful link into karma because Semchen means, Sem means mind, Chen means possessor. A Semchen is a mind possessor. It's a sentient being, this idea of sentient beings. And in this world, at least the world I was born in, we have a few ideas of where you come from, right? The materialist world view will say to you, the scientists, or as your friend likes to call it, what does he call this?
Scientism?
Scientism. Yeah, it's a new religion. Yeah.
Like that.
Wants to tell you that you, this thing called you, came from mommy and daddy. When mommy and daddy had sexual intercourse, am I allowed to say that? When the egg and sperm met, something happened and you popped into existence. Mommy and daddy made you. Physical stuff made you. And in past and future lives, we refuted that and we looked at where does mind come from, this consciousness. The you that is the feeling, the depressed you, the happy you, the hopeful you, not the physical you. That's the egg and sperm, no problem. Physical stuff produced by physical stuff. Non-physical stuff produced by non-physical stuff. So a Semchen, a mind possessor, is actually the realm that we'll be talking about for the next 12 weeks. It's where karma works. It's in mind. And as I was saying, you could be a materialist and say, mommy and daddy made me. I began when egg and sperm met. That's where you began, according to the majority of our views on this planet. Is what I was brought up with, in the scientism view. Or if you have a creator view, you know, I grew up as a Catholic in Argentina, there was another creator. It wasn't mom and dad as a creator, it was
Jesus.
It was Jesus, or it was dad Jesus. No, it was God, you know? And it was sacrilegious to question that. And Buddha didn't think that was a problem to question that. There's been lots of debate in India about the creator God. Yeah, there's a debate, and we talked about it in past and future lives, about this idea of the creator God. So you can have your materialist view, where did you come from? The happy you, the one that wants happiness and avoids suffering. The me, the I, the essence of you, where does that come from? And when you trace it back, in the last course we said, this moment of you, the Buddha said, this moment of you was produced by a previous moment of you, mentally, your consciousness. Just like your physicality. The egg and sperm grew, cell, you get a body. This body isn't what you had a year ago. This body isn't what you had 5 years ago. You didn't look anything like this 10 years ago. That's not you. The continuum of you, this river that flows, this consciousness, has its own cause and effect, cause and effect. In that respect, the Buddha was very similar to the scientists, whatever. The scientists. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. That's what we're going to be talking about. And when Geshe Michael was teaching this in the 90s, it hit me like a brick, the realization that we believe in cause and effect in our materialist view for everything under the sun, except our consciousness. That's crazy. Not only that, when you do the Big Bang Theory, you know, everything is caused, absolutely everything in the universe was caused by the previous cause, except the first one. And then what happens? You know, the Dalai Lama likes to say, no problem with Big Bang, which is not the first Big Bang. You know, there was another Big Bang. And so when we come to thinking about consciousness and cause and effect, if everything else is under the laws of cause and effect, why not consciousness? And it hit me, like, how come I never thought that? So then when you look at who you are, where your happiness is, your unhappiness is, your jealousy, your anger, your hopes, your depression, your joy, then that you, Buddha called that mind. And he said that's non-physical. That's got its own stream. It's like a river. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And if you trace that back, all the way back to the sperm and egg, then you see the real difference and the dilemmas that come with that view. You go, wow, if this moment of mine was caused by that moment of mine, was caused by the previous moment of mine, the very first moment of mine that I appeared in this body, where did it come from? Did it come from mummy's mind and daddy's mind, as the materialist would have you believe? Did they lose a part of their mind when you got yours? Yeah, no, most mums do. They gain it back though, you know. And the answer is no, it's its own continuum. You are your own continuum. Your mind comes from your mind. And if you hold the creator view, that a God made you, an exterior force made you, then you see why this planet does the things we do. You included, me included. We think that the cause for our suffering, the cause for our mistaken understanding of the world is you, outside of me, the creator God. So you can blame your mum and dad for your shitty behavior, for why you're depressed, and that's easy to do if you think you came from mum and dad. You can blame everybody else or God or everyone else if you think you came from a creator. And I'm not being judgmental or sacrilegious, I'm actually investigating. You can say, well, it's not my fault that I'm here, and life hurts. So it's mum and dad, or it's God, and everyone else who's forcing you. So what's your name? Ron?
Yes.
Yeah, so imagine Ron punches me in the head, right? And blood comes out of my face. In this world of cause and effect like we know it, where mum and dad created us or God created us, I think Ron is the cause of my suffering. Because fist hit my nose, blood comes out, it looks like the cause. I'm hurting, thanks. And you're all understanding that's true. But according to Buddha, he's saying no. Your suffering in your mind comes from you, not him. The fist has something to do with it. It could be a secondary cause, it could be a condition, it's necessary to produce the blood and all that stuff, but you don't have to have suffering out of that event. This is radical thinking. This is karma. This is radical thinking. So where did it come from? Because now we're like, oh my God, so it didn't come from baby Jesus, and it didn't come from mom and dad. But if it didn't come from Ron, where the hell did it come from? Buddha said it comes from your own mind, from yourself. And this is a big dilemma for us. Because we say, it looks like it came from him, he punched me, blood came out, it hurts. Really, it hurts. Buddha says we're mistaken. That's what the big mistake is. That's what the ignorance means. That's what the piglism of the wheel about. He says, if you think the suffering that happened in your mind came from the punch, you're mistaken. And in fact, you're all crazy. You're all mistaken because you operate in the world. Now I'm going to punch him back so he doesn't punch me again. And I've just created the cause to be punched again. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. He says a previous moment of mine created that. And listen to this is precious. It is a secondary factor. It is necessary. The fist in my face is necessary for blood to come out. Right? The suffering didn't come from that. But it played a part in the suffering. It's like we believe in cause and effect around planting trees and so on. So you could have apple trees. And you know that the principal cause of the apple tree is the apple seed. But it needs soil, and it needs water, and it needs sunlight, and it needs all these other, it must have them for the tree to come. But without the seed, no apple tree will ever come. There could be all sorts of stuff in the soil, all sorts of seeds. So me thinking that his punch caused my suffering is like us thinking that when I pour water on the earth, an apple tree must come from the water on the earth. I am ignorant that it requires a seed belonging to the apple line. Does that make sense? We are blind to the fact that apple trees come from apple seeds. We think apple trees comes from us watering the earth. And because there's all sorts of stuff in the earth, sometimes we get apple trees. And so when we get apple trees, we go, oh my God, it's true. When I put water on the earth, apple trees come. And then you go, I'm going to try it again. Oh my God, it's a banana tree. I'm going to try it again. Oh, it's an apple tree. I told you, apple trees come from when I put water on the thing. This is the mistake that Buddha said we have around where suffering comes from. You need an apple seed. You need a very specific cause, the main cause, and you obviously need the secondary causes. Mm-hmm.
It may be premature to ask this question.
It may, but don't.
So I get confused with this point because I start to get blurry on, I can understand that I'm the cause of my reaction and
Yeah.
of the suffering that I feel, but I get confused at how much of I've created Ron punching me in the face.
Sure.
Like, not the action, not even that, Ron's very existence.
Yeah, okay.
And so
It's
there's-
premature. We'll cover
Okay.
it. Yeah, we'll cover it when I talk about the syllabus of where we'll get to cover where things come from. Yeah.
But actually, the theory is that you're not in control of your response in the moment.
That's not where I'm
Yeah,
confused.
Right.
I want to cover one more
figured
point before we get to questions, so you don't lose. Do you get what I'm getting at? One of the big ideas, this idea on karma, cause and effect, applied to sentient beings, to mind possessors, not just humans. Because in the creator realm, we say humans are it. They have souls, which is a similar idea. Animals, they're just plants. You know, they don't have a being. So this is another differentiator between what the Buddha said when he had that insight and his focus. That sentients, mind possessors, are blind to real causality of their mind, of why they suffer. And the simple proof is that if Ron's fist hit my face and blood came out when we were practicing Kung Fu together, I would laugh. I'm like, oh, you got me. And it didn't create suffering. And if it's a true cause, like the seed, it must always produce that same result. An apple seed must always produce an apple tree. The fact that water sometimes produces apple trees and sometimes produces banana leaf things is proof that water didn't produce the apple tree or the banana tree.
So is it then just your own perspective? How you perceive it? What happens?
Well, it's your forced perception. You didn't choose it. Yeah? It was forced upon you by your sin, by your mind stream. And we'll talk, this is, the entire course is spending on how that happens. Yeah? And how things are produced. No?
Oh yeah, it was just I was just saying, like the scene in Fight Club when he's like enjoying getting the shit beat out of him.
Yeah. Exactly. So being punched in the head is not the cause of suffering. Water does not produce apple trees. And this is what the Buddha said. You guys are crazy. You are forever pouring water in the hope to get the same result. We are stealing from each other. We are cheating each other. We think that if I hide something from you, you're never going to find out. We are mistaken. Because the recorder, the thing that produces our world, is your own sentient, your own mind. No one made it, no mummy and daddy. And it wasn't a creator God's responsibility to make you. If it's you, it is freedom. Because you can produce ultimate results. It is also massively scary responsibility because it means all the crap in your life is yours. But I'd rather have that responsibility because it means I can free myself from it, if this is true, than some hopeless, someone else has got control of my life. And there's proof. You can, once you understand the core tenets of karma, the Buddha said you don't have to believe me. Like Newton said, I don't care if you believe in it. Believe in gravity. It doesn't matter whether you believe in gravity or not, he doesn't care. Buddha doesn't care if you believe in karma. Karma is, he says. And our job is to go, okay, this is a theory for us, because we don't see it that way. We see water on the ground, apple trees, most of the time. And you've heard this before. The aspirin takes away headache. If aspirin takes away headache, and it has an active ingredient inside it that takes away the headache, every aspirin must take away headache. Why don't they all take away the headache? Why don't you take back the ones that don't work? It's not the cause of it. Water doesn't make apple trees. So the study of karma is a study of how, and we'll go through it soon, we'll start soon, is the study of how if you begin to understand this insight, you begin to understand how to produce true courses in your own world. And you're no longer at the whim of mistaken courses. Sometimes a banana tree, sometimes a mandarin tree. Oh, I'm in an area where there's mostly apple season, so I believe it's apple trees. The big mistake is understood. This is the ignorance. This is all that it's talking about. Ignorance of where things come from. We think it comes from outside of us. We're happy to blame everybody for the way our sem, our mind, is experiencing itself. What if it was just you? What if you then turn the telescope from outside and put it onto the monkey inside, tamed it a little bit through meditation, studied a little bit, and not study Buddhism, but really investigate your world and begin to see, well, if that's a different law, then I can truly change my world. And if I can, I am free from suffering. And if I am, so is my mum and my brother and my sister and my lover and my neighbor and the stranger and the person crying on the street and everybody that's in the same crowd. This is the freedom. So I invite you to go take a quick break. We'll be back in 10 minutes and we actually start the course. Thank you. Merry Christmas.